This film is about the world of Reliant, its products, its factories, and its workforce. Reliant is one of Britain's leading independent specialist car manufacturers. It has 3 factories, employing over 500 people, which are situated in and near Tamworth in Staffordshire. Less than 2 hours from London by road or rail, and close to Birmingham's International Airport, Tamworth is a thriving market town which over 1,000 years ago was the capital of England. The Shenstone warehouse provides a worldwide parts distribution service. The Kettlebrook factory makes glass-reinforced plastic body panels. At Two Gates, there are 2 factories, one for vehicle assembly, the other manufacturing engines and mechanical components. Reliant's headquarters, engineering and development departments are also at Two Gates. In 1934, an engineer named Williams started the Reliant Motor Company making small 3-wheeled vans in the back garden of his Tamworth home. By 1953, he had introduced the Regal, a 3-wheeled car with an aluminium body on a wooden frame. 4 years later, in 1957, Reliant had developed the technology to produce complete car bodies in rust-free glass fibre reinforced plastic. By the 1960s, the range of products included the 2-seater Sabre 4 and 6 sports cars, which were quickly followed by the Scimitar GT Sports Coupe. The company's expertise in GRP was particularly suited to relatively low production volumes in export markets. Using this technology, Reliant designed the anodol for manufacture in Turkey. 100,000 have been made by Otosan since its introduction in 1966. In the UK, the 4-wheeled Rebel economy car had been introduced. The Robin 3-wheeler range superseded the Regal in 1973. Today's products can be directly traced back to the earlier vehicles. Flagship of the range is the Scimitar GTE, powered by a 2.8-litre engine. It has a touring range of 500 miles or 800 kilometres, and a top speed approaching 120 miles or 200 kilometres per hour. The Scimitar GTC convertible, introduced in 1980 and based on the GTE, is a traditional open-topped grand touring car. The current 3-wheeler range, the Rialto, incorporates the latest in modern styling, with a very economical fuel consumption of up to 70 miles per gallon, or 4.5 litres per 100 kilometres. Reliant have now built over 250,000 3-wheeled cars. Sipani Automobiles manufacture the Dolphin under license in Bangalore, India, with parts, including the engine, made by Indian manufacturers, progressively replacing the Reliant components, initially supplied from the UK. And the latest addition, the Fox utility pickup and hardtop, is a new, cheap, practical, rust-free vehicle built for economy. But the Reliant story really starts here. The final shape of the car, determined by the design team, is transformed by skilled craftsmen into a detailed pattern made from wood and clay. Meticulous attention to detail is necessary as the pattern is used to create the master, which incorporates the location points used when making the molds for the manufacturing process. Glass-reinforced plastic products are manufactured in a separate factory. It is here that Reliant are constantly researching the application of new materials and checking the specification and suitability of polyester resins used in manufacture. The finished master of the complete body shell is carefully reinforced and dimensionally checked. From the master, a complex 5-section mold is made, which will be bolted together before the complete car body can be produced. In another part of the factory, rolls of chopped strand glass fibre mat, checked by quality control, are cut using templates into the many shapes and sizes needed to mould a complete car body. Experience has proved that this operation is best done by hand. Each of the moulds is carefully cleaned and prepared. The surface is wax polished to ensure a perfect release from the mould. The sections are then bolted together to form the complete body mould. The whole assembly is mounted on special jigs, which allow the moulds to be rotated for easy access to the inside during the moulding process. The mould is then sprayed with a polyester resin gel coat, which will form the smooth outer surface of the body shell. This coating is cured in an oven before the pre-cut fiberglass mat patterns are fitted into the mould. Catalyzed polyester resin is applied to each fiberglass mat pattern, as it is carefully positioned in its correct place within the mould. The resin dissolves the bonder in the fiberglass mat, allowing the glass fiber reinforcement to reform in the finished shape of the mould. Metal reinforcing frames, brackets and door striker plates are bonded into position as part of this process. Further resin and mat are applied to build up the specified thickness and strength of the finished panel, each additional piece of material being carefully brushed or rolled out to expel air before the finished moulding passes into a curing oven to accelerate the drying process. The inner moulding, which will form the floor pan and inside of the car body, is manufactured in the same way. After being released from its mould, the finished floor pan is bolted into place on the vehicle chassis. This floor pan is then bonded to the outer body moulding, again using a polyester resin. After a further oven drying process, the complete body is broken out of the mould. The fixing bolts holding the flanges of the mould together are removed, and each section is carefully pulled away. The body is then passed to inspection. After being allowed to harden for at least 24 hours, flanges are removed with a special router. The body is now ready for dispatch to the assembly plant for painting. Reliant make almost all the jigs and moulds used for production. Metal tools are specially designed for the manufacture of components where large quantities are needed. Kirksite, an alloy specially developed for the purpose, is cast to make the metal tool used in the production of the cover for a cooling fan. The matched tools have an excellent surface finish and are capable of producing a high volume of components to accurate dimensions. Preheated metal tools are used in large hydraulic presses. Each press may have several metal tools, so that a number of different parts can be pressed simultaneously. Continuous filament mat and resin are loaded onto each set of tools. Controlled temperatures and closing pressures on the materials combine to produce fully cured and finished parts in a complete cycle time of between 2 and 4 minutes. After the press operation is complete, the components are removed for trimming. Many components are made using this method. In addition to the parts used for vehicles, Reliant manufacture a variety of other GRP products for the motor and other industries. From imitation marble for cast plastic hand basins to large air conditioning covers for railway carriages, Reliant have the technology to match almost any customer's requirements for high-quality reinforced plastic products. Very large components are now constructed using this technology. Here, a wooden pattern is being made for the production of the front of a railway locomotive. The pattern will be carefully finished and polished before the production mold is made, so that it can be manufactured in large quantities. Self-colored plastic, which requires no painting, is produced by using colored polyester resin during manufacture. This method is particularly appropriate for the type of large cover which Reliant make for aircraft servicing equipment used at airports throughout the world. Reliant also mold the body of this specialist vehicle, which has been designed to allow rear entry of an invalid chair. The chair can be locked into the driving position, giving independent mobility to a disabled driver. Completed bodies for vehicles manufactured by Reliant are brought by transporter from the Kettlebrook GRP factory to the vehicle assembly plant at 2 gates. Here, bodies are unloaded and stored before being used for production. The bodies are inspected and then fixed to a floor conveyor, passing through the paint shop where they're primed, oven baked and flatted before the final color coats are applied. The bodies are painted in separate booths. In all, each body will have 6 coats of primer and 5 or 6 color coats. The painted bodies are then passed through a drying oven before being moved to the vehicle assembly shop. In the trim shop, the fabrics used to make the seats are cut to shape. To form the pattern on the seat, the fabric is placed face down on a press. Weld foam is then applied to the back of the fabric before being placed into the heated press. This process permanently imprints the press pattern onto the fabric to improve the finished appearance of the interior trim. Leather hides are carefully examined to ensure high quality. Seats, carpets, armrests and other items to go inside the vehicle are stitched and finished by skilled machinists. The completed seat covers are finally assembled on the seat frames. In the welding department, a chassis for another 3-wheeler is taking its final shape. All chassis for Reliant vehicles, Scimitar, Rialto and Fox, are made here before being sent out for the galvanizing operation, which will ensure that they remain corrosion-free and long-lasting. Reliant also produce their own overhead valve light alloy engine. Over 250,000 of these engines have been produced since it was first introduced in 1962. Now developed into an extremely economical 40 horsepower 848cc engine, incorporating all the current EEC emission requirements. It is used to power the Rialto 3-wheeler, Fox utility range and the Dolphin built under license in India. Reliant also sell the engine as a power unit for fire pumps and generating sets where its low weight and relatively high power and torque are used to best advantage. The cylinder block and cylinder head castings are received from suppliers and then fully machined by Reliant. Crankshafts and camshafts are machined and ground from forgings, each crankshaft being individually balanced before being released to engine assembly. Cast iron cylinder liners are externally machined, bored and finally diamond honed to close tolerances with quality control validation at each stage of manufacture. In another part of the machine shop, a variety of equipment is used to cut and grind gears for the Reliant 4-speed fully synchromesh gearbox and rear axle. Each gearbox is individually assembled in a light alloy case, which is also being machined in the same plant. In the engine assembly shop, valves are fitted to the cylinder head before the completed assembly is bolted down onto the cylinder block and liners. Matched sets of pistons and conrods are fitted from the bottom of the engine, and the crankshaft is then bolted into position before the engine sump is fitted. The rear oil seal is fitted over the end of the crankshaft, and the flywheel is torqued into position. Finally, the ancillary components are fitted, the color of the engine top cover denoting the compression ratio of the engine. Special test beds are used to run all engines for at least 1 hour. Final adjustments are made to the carburetor and ignition during the test procedure. Where required, the gearbox is fitted to the finished engine, and the unit is then ready for assembly in a vehicle or for dispatch to the customer. In another part of the assembly shop, rear axles are built, great care being exercised to ensure the correct tolerances are built into the axle. The vehicle production shop is 100 meters long. Rolling chassis produced for other vehicle manufacturers using Reliant components are built by the side of the main production line. The production line itself is elevated to allow access for parts being delivered and assembly of the vehicle from both above and below. All Rialto and Fox vehicles are assembled on this track, the engine, gearbox and axle being lifted up to be fitted to the previously painted body and galvanized chassis. Once the power unit and drive line have been installed, the electrical wiring loom, fascia and ancillary components are added, followed by the fitting of carpet, seats and glass. Wheels and tires are added, so that the completed car can be driven off the end of the production line. Adjustments are made, headlamps are aligned, and after a thorough inspection, each vehicle is given its final Assembled OK sticker. Finally, each vehicle is water tested, powerful jets being directed from all angles while the inspector checks the inside of the vehicle for any sign of water ingress. In another area, the Scimitar GTE and GTC are built to individual customers' requirements. The chassis is mounted on a raised track to allow the suspension, braking system and rear axle to be fitted. The engine and transmission are positioned and fixed before the painted body is dropped onto the chassis. The electrical wiring and fascia are assembled into position before carpets and trim arrive from the trim shop. The vehicle is carefully inspected at all stages of manufacture to ensure that it complies with the exacting quality standards demanded. All Reliant vehicles produced at Tamworth are road tested by a vehicle inspector before final adjustments are made, and they're released for delivery to the Reliant dealers. Computers and word processors are used by the company for inventory control in manufacture, sales invoicing and accounting, parts ordering and stock control. From the Shenston Parts Warehouse, a modern fleet of vehicles distribute parts to the 240 dealers in the UK and their customers. Export parts and component kits for Reliant's overseas partners are also distributed from Shenston. But the future of Reliant depends on the ability and skill of the designers and engineers to maintain the competitiveness of the company's products and to develop vehicles for future production. Specially developed for manufacture overseas is the FW11 family-sized 5-door hatchback. With its glass-reinforced plastic body, it is particularly suitable for production in low volume. Reliant engineering expertise is seen at its best in the electric and petrol-engined hybrid electric car. Engineered and built at Tamworth for Lucas Electric Vehicle Systems, it is powered by a Lucas Electric drive system and the Reliant all-alloy petrol engine coupled to a generator. This prototype vehicle will allow Lucas engineers to carry out further research into vehicle drive and control systems which conserve energy. Reliant engineers use the extensive facilities of the British Motor Industry Research Association, situated only 25 kilometres away from the factory, where a variety of test tracks are available to carry out vehicle development work. It is here that vehicles can be tested under controlled and repeatable conditions away from public roads. Steering and cornering loads can be measured at various speeds on a special steering pad. An extensive circuit of Belgium pavé and corrugated track is available to hammer suspension and body components in a way not possible on normal roads. Clutch durability, stop, start and braking tests are performed on an artificial test hill. The water splash level can be adjusted to test underbody water entry and to determine the effects of water immersion on braking efficiency. In addition, a variety of high-speed and banked circuits are available to test all aspects of vehicle performance without the interruption of normal road traffic. It is only by this constant engineering and development that Reliant products remain competitive and continue to give customer satisfaction. This then is the world of Reliant, a specialist manufacturer making its products for special people.